good. Some people think people are evil. Some people focus on perception of the world. Some people are dominant over the world. Some people are subjugated. Some people are in harmony with the world. What are some other ways that people are characterized? Anybody put your hand up and identify. When you communicate with somebody, you need to understand their values. What are some values of other people in other countries, for example? Nobody putting their hand up. Okay, how about Che, Sungyeon, can you tell me what are some values of people in other countries?
Their own culture.
Okay, such as what? Can you explain how Korean culture and communicating in Korea would be different than communicating with somebody in another country?
Koreans tend to be more favorable to polite people. I don't know.
I think every country in the world should be trying to say their country is polite. Any other guests? Can you help me pick another student and we can ask another student? So you just finished talking. You can continue talking either and talk about another cultural difference, how values change, or pick any other student. And we'll ask the other student.
Hi, Si-hyung, can you help me?
Great.
Yeah. Added to her, what she said. We need to consider cultures. So I think what she wants to say is that Korean tends to show more respect to elders or superiors, like especially within companies. I think so.
So in Korea, when you communicate, your communication changes depending on if you're talking to an older person or a younger person. Right. Can you name a country where the communication maybe does not change depending on how old you are?
I think the typical example is America, the US.
Right. So in the United States, whether you're talking to a grandmother or grandfather or you're talking to a young child, you should still be using the same types of words and the same expressions. Maybe with a baby you say gaya guru, but overall everybody gets the same amount of respect. Absolutely. What I was looking for is a little more explanation about this slide, helping make sure people understand it. And this slide that talks more about how different people see space, or how different people have a primary mode of activity, doing versus being, or some people communicate based on individual facts and individual details versus group or hierarchical details. So we've gone through this a little bit. These are examples of how some people communicate differently based on how they perceive the individual, based on how they relate to the world, based on personal relationships, not just age, but individual versus collective, based on activities, doing versus being. So these are some examples. Hopefully students go through and see these details. Overall, cross-cultural communications have a lot of different divisions or indexes or indicators that can make a culture. Cultures can be complex. So hopefully you have a good understanding of how to appreciate these differences. At the beginning, when students start checking out a new culture, maybe they don't understand the other culture. They only understand their own culture, and they might think the other culture is strange or crazy or terrible or stupid or something like that. And it takes a while to appreciate the differences. And so in our class, we're going to talk about how cultures are, they can be complex. There's many ways to characterize them. Are you ready to manage people from other cultures? Or are you ready to manage people in areas outside your own culture? So we've been talking about that. We've defined the definition of culture. Culture is a collection of values, and the values make up your attitudes, and the attitudes make up your behavior, and your behavior makes the culture, and it goes around in a circle. There's many aspects, as we talked about, whether it's age or risk tolerance, interest in family, whether it's power, individualism, innovation, much, much more. These two people, Hofstede and Adler, you will learn. Hopefully you will love. Many people know of Hofstede because he has this website that I'll show you soon. Where is it here? This, nope, not this website. Let's make another website. So I just type in Hofstede, Korea, go to country comparisons. We started to do this the other day. And you will be able to type in any country. There's the culture of Korea compared to the United States. So Korea has high power distance, the United States has lower power distance. Korea has very, very low individual focus. They're more group focused. And the United States is super crazy high individual detail focused, not group focused. So they're very different here. And what I was trying to share with you, if we jump to another thing, is go past SRC and ethnocentrism and try to show you this type of information here. So in this slide, we can see China, Korea, Japan. Many people in New York might think, oh, they're all the same. Oh, the cultures, you know, you all look the same. You all act the same. Everybody needs to bow and eat rice. We in Korea, we know a little bit better than that. We know that there are differences with the Chinese culture, Korean culture, and Japanese culture. And you can see that right here. Can somebody help me identify what does PDI mean?
Petroleum.
Petroleum, is that what you're saying? Good guess. I didn't hear you clearly.
Power distance.
Power distance, yes, thank you. I don't know who just said that, but if you can explain it, you definitely get marks for today.
So I think power distance shows like how much hierarchy system the country or the organization have. So the more high the power distance is, that there are lots of the strict relationships between the up and down, and low power distance means that the power, the inequalities is minimized. Yeah.
Yes, if you have low power distance, like in here, this says United States, purple has a lower power distance than in Korea. That means there is less difference between a powerful person and a regular person. And so lower levels of society think you are more equal here, but lower levels of society in Korea accept that powerful people are different than me. So this means we will accept a big difference, and this means we have a lower distance. So yes, that is defined here. It's the extent to which less powerful members of institutions, universities, classes, companies within a country expect and accept that power is distributed unequally. Absolutely. Korea has a score of 60, which is generally hierarchical society. This means that people accept a hierarchy, and it says generally everybody has a place. I am the professor and you are a student. So in Korea, I think last class somebody said, I'm supposed to be a god. I'm supposed to be a very high level in the hierarchy, and students are supposed to listen to what I say. Well, that's in Korea, but I'm not teaching Korean culture alone. I'm teaching international business, cross-cultural communication. So in an outside of Korea system, we are more equal. You should be considered equal to me. I will negotiate with you and accept that you are equal, and you can make modifications to the class schedule and details if you want. And this also means Korean people generally think there needs no further justification. If I say something as a professor in Korea, a regular professor, just whatever the professor says, I don't need to explain why. It's just that's the way it is. I don't work that way. I am from a different culture. I am from a culture that does justify, especially for equality. So I will talk more, much more, and explain more than a regular Korean professor. Hierarchy in an organization is seen as reflecting near inequalities. Centralization is popular, subordinates expect to be told what to do, and the ideal boss is an autocrat, or generally a dictator. Well, I am trying to teach you what it's like outside of Korea, and that's different. So we go back and we check which country is more equal than Korea, based on this chart.
Japan.
Japan.
Yes, in Japan, it says Japanese are considered more equal to other people. What other country is even more equal than that? Can somebody put your hand up? Put your icon for your hand. Okay, Lee Soo-hyun.
Denmark, Canada, and US, three of them are lower than Korea.
Yes, and the lowest one of all is Denmark, green. So
Denmark.
you see that Korea is 60, China is 80, but Denmark is 18. And if we look over here for individualism, individual in Korea, you're 18, versus in Denmark, you are 74. So overall, many people say Denmark culture is the opposite of Korea. And because of that, 5 p.m. September 10, we will have 3 different experts from Denmark contributing to class and introducing themselves and the way that they might be able to lecture and help mentor some of their students. If you guys are very active, they may introduce their students to us so that you can partner and have a group member from Denmark to collaborate on your group projects. But we need to convince them to do that. They're prepared to talk about it, just understand. These are just possible examples. So before we get into that, we've talked about power distance. What does this IDV mean?
Individualism?
Individualism, great. And so what does that mean? What does individualism mean when we're talking about communicating to other cultures?
Interdependence?
Yes, some people are interdependent. Yes? Can somebody else? How about Jiwon Byung? Can you describe another example of individualism, what that means, or give an example to explain how some people are individualistic versus whatever is the opposite? Ji Woo-byun, I don't hear you, so we'll go to the next one. What about Min Jae Kim? Kim Min Jae, are you here? No comment from Kim Min Jae? Yes, no? Going to the next one. What about Muklisa Berdiyeva? Oh, is that you, Muklisa?
Yes, Professor. I think that individualism means that.
I can't hear you. Can you speak closer into your microphone, please?
Yes, sure. Now it's okay. Professor, can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very quietly.
Individualism, in my opinion, it means that you can take action individual or make a decision. Like it's independent, like more freedom to each person.
Okay, yes. Some countries, each person is able to just work on their own. They work individually. They can make decisions on their own. Some people in Korea may be different. So what is the alternative to making a decision on your own individually? What is an example of the opposite? So this shows Japan is not individual. This shows Korea is a low-level individualism. And this shows USA is super high individualism. So what does that mean, Lisa, if you're still talking?
What does it mean, the indicator of each country?
You have defined part of individualism, but what I'm asking is, what is the opposite? How can you explain what it is? What is a good way to understand it? Not just talk about individualism, but what is the opposite of individualism? For example, how do people work differently in Korea and in USA? Since USA is super high and Korea is super small. Feel free to pick another student if you want.
Is it collectivism?
Yes, that's one aspect to it. Yes, so what does that mean? So right now, you're using a different aspect of culture. Whoever the student that just talked, you said basically one word, collectivism. Using communication with one word is normal in Korea. Like when somebody says pegopa, people around them understand. But when you're in many other countries, if you only use one word, they will not understand. They don't know if you're asking, how do you spell it? Or what does it mean? Or am I hungry? Or are you hungry? They don't know what you're talking about. So in other countries, you need to use many words. So collectivism is correct. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
I think compared to individualism, collectivism is more like emphasize the group, the importance of group. Like individualism is focusing on the value of individual, and collectivism is, I think, it put emphasis on oneness, the interaction among people.
Okay, yes, that's good. It's a good beginning. If you go back to this website and you go down here, we talk about power distance. The next most popular discovery that Hofstede identified in research in his theories is defining individualism. Yes, and it is talking about the opposite is usually collectivism. So collectivist society is the opposite of individualistic society. And it's not just a me person versus us person. It's individual. For example, Canada is also individualistic. We care about groups of people more so than the United States, for example. So here you can see United States is more individualistic. We are a little bit more group oriented in Canada. But what that means is when we're doing things, we have to satisfy other people. It's extreme in Korea. Over here in Korea, for example, in Canada or USA, if I'm hungry, I just say, hi guys, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat. You can come with me if you want. And that's a little bit caring about other people. Canadians will invite other people to eat with them, perhaps more than Americans. But Canadians will invite people to eat with them more than Americans. But Koreans, for example, sometimes Koreans, even if their stomach is going crazy and they're super hungry, they won't think about going to eat or lunch if they're in a group. They might think, oh, does this other group leader, are they hungry? Do they want to eat? Should I plan to give him some food? Or does the group altogether want to eat? Even if I'm not hungry, if I think that group needs to eat, I will start suggesting what the group wants collectively. So that's one example. Many Koreans and Americans, foreign cultures, can't understand how you would think about hunger when you're not hungry every day, depending on who you are around. That's just one example. Again, it's defined in here with Hofstede. And there's other aspects of that. Masculinity, it's not talking about your gender, being a boy or a girl. It's talking generally, if we go back to here, I'll make this a little, oops, it's too big. So at the beginning, I was showing you this idea what is culture? I was talking about Hofstede is an expert. We were just looking at his website. He was defining it, but masculinity and some of his other cultural dimensions are not great. They're not easy to understand. So Adler, yay, another Canadian, they are teaching that the masculine or feminine culture, it's better to describe them as career-oriented or career-aggressive versus relationship-oriented. They would equate what Hofstede says is masculine to be the same as, so Hofstede says this masculine, here it's the same thing as career-oriented. So United States is more career-oriented and Korea is more relationship-oriented than United States. Somebody want to give me another country to put in here? What is another country? One more country. Somebody yell it out.
Pakistan.
Pakistan. Okay. What just happened? My computer is not actually working. Did this freeze? Bummer, this computer is frozen. Anyway, if you go in here, you can type in Pakistan and you can show the details. I've got the class set up to show you many different types of culture at the same time. Here are some examples of, again, these are China, Korea, Japan, USA, Canada, Denmark. Here's another way of seeing it. Again, same thing. Korea, China, United States, Japan, Canada, Denmark. There's other ways to define it. Some of these slides will show about Pakistan. But when you're looking at this in this website, it will explain. Here we go, it's working. Is that what you said, Pakistan?
No, Uzbekistan.
Oh, sorry, Uzbekistan. I'll delete that. Oops. Oops, I just deleted the United States too. That's okay, we don't like United States. Any Americans here? How do you spell Uzbekistan?
Z, not S.
U-Z?
Yes.
Unfortunately, Hofstede has not studied Uzbekistan.
Okay.
We can check Kazakhstan. Would you think Kazakhstan culture is a little bit similar?
Yeah.
Yes. So now we have that here. As you see, that the purple is super high. Maybe in Uzbekistan it's the same. Very high power distance, which means regular members of society expect and accept they are not equal to powerful members of society. Versus in Denmark, whoa, no way. Almost everybody is equal. Everybody has the same power. Next, in Korea, it's closer to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and very far away from Denmark. United States also is closer to Korea than it is to Denmark, which is more equal and fair. With individualism and collectivism, same thing. Denmark is incredibly individualistic versus Kazakhstan, possibly Uzbekistan, is very group focused, very similar to Korea. But United States is maximum individual focused. And this is not, as I say, just a people thing, it is a detail thing. So when you negotiate details or talk to people, where you put the comma, where you put the period, where you put a question mark or a pause, each small detail can completely change how an American person will react. Versus in these countries, they don't really care as much about the details. They care more about the group. What does the group think? How does the group or collective people understand details? So we've gone through those details. I'm gonna go back, and if you guys have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm gonna jump back up to showing you interesting examples. So we've already talked about what culture is. We've explained how you must know about Hofstede. Definitely research Hofstede. Definitely research Adler. Anybody know who is Adler? Everybody in class should be able to answer this. Adler is the researcher and professor from Canada that wrote our class textbook. Our class textbook. Hopefully you can start getting the class textbook, reading the class textbook. We're going through that all the time. I have scanned some of it, and the class textbook has some information in the Excel file, but every student needs to get these details and learn about what Adler's talking about. We're going through that. Next, last class, we've talked about SRC and ethnocentrism. I'm not going to repeat too much, but I want to make sure you understand. Everybody on the planet usually has an unconscious ability to make mistakes. They unconsciously speak, just referencing their own cultural values, experiences, knowledge, and basis for decisions. That's the self-reference criterion. Ethnocentrism is when you learn there are other ways, but you don't understand the other ways very well. The best way is to be culturally synergistic. Again, culture is not right or wrong. It's not about individual behavior. It's not inherited. There are experts that proposed ways to manage, ways to communicate, like Maslow, Herzberg, McGregor, Hawthorne, but each one of these have been proven to be biased and ethnocentric. For example, Maslow is focused on individual-focused countries that are self-actualization, versus in Japan, which is very group-oriented, they would have maybe the opposite. Job security and working together with others in social interaction is probably more important than self-actualization. So it would be upside down, perhaps in Japan. So as you present some theories and articles in class and research or weekly topics, please find the world experts, but also try to understand how they could be modified and changed and improved. These are several of the world theories in describing how people work and manage communications with other people. This is a summary of what it means. This is the leadership style. People don't just work based on compensation systems. They also work and they're motivated and they communicate based off of security and social interaction or flexible work schedules and employee involvement programs, for example. This green box at the bottom explains how some countries might be very specific. They might be autocratic. So one leader will have absolute power over the staff. Versus over here, the leader, like what I'm doing with class, is allowing students to be equal with me and make proposals because it's very, very opposite from the Korean style. So I'm doing it on purpose so Koreans can see the difference. In the beginning, in the middle, you can see the participative leadership style or communication style where they will allow other people to participate in the conversation. These people will just say, this is the way it is, and other people accept it. Over here, free reign style, somebody will say something and hope or expect other people will give suggestions too. I want you guys to give as many suggestions and talk as much as possible to get practice trying the opposite style. Participative style, it's basically a partnership. But what's the problem with this? I want to put you in the groups for 5 minutes, and I want you to evaluate this green chart and evaluate this chart. So I'm going to show you a little bit more about this. So I'm going to put you in groups. You need to analyze this. You need to also analyze this that we're talking about. And one other thing, I'm not going to ask you to check the long-term orientation and indulgence, just these first 4. Where is the next one? There's another file I'm going to get you to see. Oops, not signed in yet. Let's go back here, this one. So this file is the other bigger file that I want you to focus on. So take this green box and this one, Asian Management in the 21st Century. It was written by Hofstede, the same guy that created the website we were talking about. So what I want you to look at and analyze in a group and try to identify what it means is this section. When you are communicating with people in USA, the USA people care more about growing the company, and then they care about getting money in their pocket, personal wealth. But if you check here in China, it's the opposite. Not only is it not most important, it's the least important. So it actually could upset people in China to just talk about personal wealth. What people in China react better to with communications is respecting the ethical norms or the patriotism, national pride or power, versus the patriotism in the United States doesn't really exist. And Denmark, you see, they're very focused on creating something new or long-term 10-year profits. So these are the most important values for communication and management, and these are the least important. So any questions from everybody before I start to assign you randomly into groups? And I want you to do two things. I want you to try to criticize this, try to understand this, try to show what is a problem and how can you do better. But more importantly, what I want you to do is introduce your own culture to somebody else. Learn how to communicate so somebody else sees your value. You will need to get into groups soon. There's no deadline yet, but if you haven't introduced yourself, use this group activity for the next 5 minutes to show people what are your skills, abilities, values. So attract other people to work with you. I'm not talking about what color is your hair. I'm talking about how well you can use PPT, how well you can speak, how well you can write, how well you can negotiate, how well you can interview people in companies, for example. So try to talk about how cultures differ, how this has a problem, it is biased, and introduce yourselves to the next one. Any questions about that before I get you into groups? Going once. I don't see any hands up. So we have 23 people in class today. I'm going to put you in 5 different rooms for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back and talk again. So please start discussing these details. Good luck, guys. Let's talk with Chad and Lee. How are you doing today? I didn't hear your group talking too much. How are things going so far? I can't hear anybody talking in your group. Please continue. I'd like to hear what you guys are saying. Okay, you can't hear me? Can you hear me now? I've got I'm just listening. Mhm. Oops. Oops. Let me just go back. And so oops. Hopefully you guys can keep going. What I just saw is that some of the groups I popped in and I observed had a lot of people sitting there quietly, wondering what to do. So that is a Korean thing. It's an Asian thing to wait for somebody to tell you exactly what to do. Well, this class is not going to work that way. I'm going to be watching you and I'm going to be checking your work, but I give points and I give the grades based off of you being the boss, based on you taking control, based on you making proposals. So yes, I went into groups and I observed, right? You saw me, but I wasn't really talking with you. In Channing I believe you saw me, and Ali, you saw several groups. But let me just repeat one more time. You guys are supposed to talk in groups together, communicating by yourself a few different things. So what are the things I was suggesting you talk about? We're talking about this thing for let me see if I can get, so this chart at the bottom is pretty important and there's problems with it. And now if we go up here, this chart at the top of my screen is showing other values of people. I want you to do at least two, if not three things. One is to start learning to communicate on your own without me telling you what to talk about. I want you to introduce yourself to these other random people that you are in a group with. Try to identify your skills and the skills of other people. Try to find out who do you want to partner with to make a weekly topic or a term paper topic. Next, I want you to practice communicating because I will introduce you to executives and world experts on September 10th, the day after tomorrow. So you need to be able to communicate these details quite well. Next, I want you to be able to tell these other students and executives what skills you have that will attract them to you. And now the main project is if you don't want to just talk about you, try to identify what is going on with this leadership style. It's not important. It's more important for you to identify your style of communication and somebody else's style of communication and your skills and abilities to do our classwork together. Are you autocratic? Are you paternalistic? Are you participative? Are you delegative? Are you free rein style? So this is one leadership style, and it has kind of a problem. If you can identify the problem, great. This is another way to view people. So I want you to maybe talk about this if you don't want to talk about yourself, but you should be understanding how people in Denmark are very different than people in China or Korea. Chinese culture and Korean culture is very similar. So overall, again, you're introducing yourself with other people, maybe to promote your abilities to do group work for the weekly topics or term paper. And you're practicing to communicate in front of these experts I will introduce you to soon. And you can use these opportunities to talk about cultural values and leadership styles differently. One more time, any questions from anybody about what we're going to do before we start?
So I just I just wanted to mention a little bit that after today, I'm going to send you an email, and then you can see the information of tomorrow's information. And you also have to submit the questions to Samsung executives within today to make sure that tomorrow you are ready to ask them many questions that you can. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Inform that in advance. Thank you.
So our class finishes in about 6 minutes. So we've already started. I'm going to go back into a group project, and it's not going to be 5 minutes. It's going to be a few more minutes. Please take the time to try to start interacting with the other groups quickly, okay? So, good afternoon. Björn, Jiu, you guys are leaving. Okay, let me check. Thank you very much, La or Lei. Jiwoo, yes, you are thinking only like a Korean right now, and you're communicating with the Korean style. You have introduced a name, but the name, although nice, is not valuable to your teammates. You've identified that you're studying a topic, but it's good if you're able to identify the skills you can help with the group. Nope, I'm just listening. I'm trying to hear what the students are trying to do, how the students are communicating. That's okay. Good. Hi, sorry. In the middle of my class, just finishing.
Oh, you're
class.
just finishing up?
Yes, just a second. Their students are doing group work. We should be finishing in 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay. You know, we have a meeting.
Yes. So, hi guys. I just wanted to congratulate you guys for being able to go through and be a little bit more participative in introducing your own skills and communication styles and things like that. I did see some people doing very well, not only introducing yourselves, but you're getting to the point of introducing how you can help other people. You need to understand how you can work mutually beneficially and communicate mutually beneficially. I saw some other students basically just saying, hi, this is my name, Sean, and I'm a professor, but it doesn't really show how other people can benefit with you. So please think more about that, not only to help yourself, but help the other person. Hopefully, you will attract other people to work in the group projects with you. And the day after tomorrow, September 10th at 5 o'clock, I'm going to be introducing you to other professors and executives. When you communicate with them, don't just say, my name is Joe and I'm a student. Tell them something that will impress them. Maybe research their background. Ali is going to send you a file with the resumes and backgrounds. You already know what are some ways Samsung might give you a job and help you with the class activities. So think about what are some questions for the executives, what are some questions for professors around the world, and get ready to interact with them September 10th at 5 p.m. Any last questions before I close up class?
Professor,
Yes?
so we have executive meeting tomorrow.
It's going to be, yes, that's right. September 10 at 5 p.m.
But I have another class on that time, so I think I cannot join.
That's okay. You will probably have group members that can talk for you. Ali is sending you a document where you can submit questions or comments you want to make. Everybody, all students must submit some questions or comments, and we will pick the best questions or comments to share with those other people. And the best questions will get some awards. So even if you're not there, we will be able to read your questions, and if you have a good question, you might get special points for that, class participation points. Does that answer your question? It's going to be recorded too, so you can see the details afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ha. Any other questions before we leave? I've got another guy waiting for a meeting outside.
Professor?
Yes, Ms. Lee.
Yeah, I have a question. So does the question have to be related to the term paper that we're going to write, or it can be anything about the company Samsung?
Well, the question is a good question that you have. I have noticed when you were speaking a lot. The purpose of communicating is not just to speak, but to try to communicate mutual benefit. So I am introducing you to 3 very high-level executives in Samsung and 3 professors that are the world's best cross-cultural communication experts for us here in Korea, and they're from actually Denmark. So we will give you their LinkedIn profiles that will allow you to know who they are, what their resumes are like. It's best if you research about them and ask some sort of question that will show them who you are, but intelligently ask a question to them. For example, research their background and ask, how can they, would they be able to advise or comment on us doing this research paper, which is on this topic, this topic, this topic. Does that make sense, Ms. Lee?
Yes, thank you, Professor.
Okay. Any last questions? And you need to go. You can communicate with me anytime, ask questions anytime. You can contact me by Facebook or email. I will try to get to your questions as soon as possible. Bye, guys. Thanks, Jacqueline.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Professor.
Professor.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.